introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, howdy, I'm Jeffrey Snover. I'm lead architect for Windows Server and been involved with PowerShell since the beginning.
Yeah. And I'm dying to ask you one question for so long. So how would you explain PowerShell to someone who's been hiding under the rock for the last 6 years?
Yeah, PowerShell is all about automation. And there's lots of different ways to do automation. The way PowerShell does it is by having a distributed automation engine that surface automation tasks as high-level task-oriented abstractions that can be available as an API for products and developers or through commands and a scripting language to IT pro scripters.
So there is a little bit of a change. At first you said like a PowerShell is, at the beginning you use more like a scripting language and a command line tool, but now it's more like every time when we talk about PowerShell we talk about automating engine.
Yeah, I think we got crisper about who we really were. I mean, we were always that way. I don't think anything's really changed. I think we maybe have changed how we talk about it. I mean, ultimately, we came down to this question of, hey, are we really about having a great interactive shell? And the answer is, no, that's not really the point. The point is to be able to automate things. And a great interactive shell is a critical step in automating. But if it was really just transforming a click, click, click of the GUI to a click, click, click of the mouse, I don't think we really moved the ball forward. So it really wasn't about offering a different interaction style. It was about being able to automate things. And a critical step in being able to automate things was having a different interaction style.
So we are still at the beta version of Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you see already the change in adoption with the early adopters of PowerShell v3? Excitement and about new features?
Yeah, so here's the deal. We wanted to get to this world where someone could think about what they want, type it, and get it. Right? That's the whole point of these high-level task-oriented abstractions. And so the point is that if you can't think about what you want to do, type it, and get it, then you can still get it done, but it requires a lot more work. You've got to go down to COM, you've got to go down to WMI, you maybe have to get into .NET, and you got to put that solution all together yourself. And here's the story. The story is that for a bunch of people, the level of support that we had with commandlets was enough for people, and they were just happy enough to go and say, great, and if I have to go do some scripting on my own, I'll do that too, because I love it. But then there were a bunch of people who said, no, I have to script too early, too often. This really isn't for me. And now with version 3, with version 1 we had 130 commandlets, version 2, 230, and now the latest numbers are that we have 2,430 commandlets in Windows Server 2012. So that's 2,400 things that someone's going to be able to think about what they want to do, type it, and get it. In other words, there would be more people with lower skill sets that can now approach PowerShell and be successful with it. We also simplified the language and gave a better PowerShell ISE to make it simpler. So we're finding that more and more people can come to PowerShell and be successful with it.
And with new server, we are getting a new server manager.
Yes.
So I would like you to explain to people that now they will run the PowerShell behind the scenes. So that's another proof that the PowerShell is all about GUI and the command line and the PowerShell, not GUI against.
Yeah, exactly. The press loves a conflict, right? And whether it's with this company or that company, or in this case, command line versus GUI. And honestly, it kind of whips people into a frenzy. We've had people come up to the booth and like, why are you taking my GUI away from me? And it's like, really? Have you seen what we've done in the GUI for Windows Windows Server 2012? And they say, no. I said, well, okay, let me show it to you. And then you see it, and they say, well, does that look like we're walking away from the GUI? And of course the answer is no. So we do have this magnificent new server manager. It's a multi-machine server manager, having a new Metro style, and everything that you can do in the GUI, you can also do through PowerShell itself. In fact, many of the things you can do. So there's one scenario-based deployment for RDS, where you can say, hey, I want to have some gateway servers, and here are the machines I want to use. I want to have some licensed servers, and here are the machines I want to use. I want to have some VDI servers and some remote session servers, and give those things. And when you say okay, we build a PowerShell workflow and then go execute, installing it on those various machines, configuring them to know about one another. So it's really quite rich. And in fact, the needs of the server manager drove a lot more of our multi-machine capabilities in PowerShell.
Awesome. So you just had 3 sessions here at MMS.
Yeah.
Would you like to share with us your impression about the MMS conference and the sessions? And
yeah, MMS is a great conference because it's very much a learn-do conference, which is to say focused in, the people who come here with very much of a focus in on, hey, what things can I learn today that I can use next week when I get back? And so they're very pragmatic, and I like that. And so what we're seeing is, two camps of adopters here. One is the folks who've come here before, and they've got products that have had PowerShell support, and so they come to us with a lot of great hardcore questions. Well, I'm doing this and this and this, and how do I do this and this and that? And really quite pleased by the level of sophistication of that group of users. And then we have a group of users who are new users, who are brand new. And these are the folks a lot in the SCCM camp, where SCCM has not had PowerShell coverage, but they've been hearing about it through other products. And then this year's conference, they announced that they were going to have full PowerShell coverage in an upcoming, I don't know how they said they were going to release that. So then all those folks were very interested in, okay, great, now it's time to get on board, let's do so.
So what would you recommend for beginners as learning resources?
Yeah, so first is we've got great help in the box. And so I encourage people to do that. If you just come to my beginners session, I encourage people to just start kicking the tires and exploring. And that's really the best way to use it. Now, in terms of books, there's a lot of great books out there. I'm hearing a lot of buzz these days about Don Jones's PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. And I really like that philosophy. Don't think that you're going to sit down and just, I'm going to spend 4 hours and learn PowerShell. No. That's not the way you learn things, and second is, I'm not sure that's going to be all that much fun. What Don says is, hey, just dedicate a certain amount of time every single day, and he says do it during your lunch hour, and then go explore. And that's a great way to learn the language.
Okay. Can you tell me something about your favorite feature in V3? Something that you think that's the biggest change?
Well, there's 2 different questions. My favorite feature and the biggest change. Honestly, my favorite feature is not a single feature, but the team's dedication to version 3 is going to be a better version 2. Okay, and that's translated into literally thousands of changes in the language. All those little burrs, like used to be when you did a dir against a UNC path. That could be, just hideously slow. And we had to go work with the .NET team quite some time ago to get them to change the APIs and how they get done. And so now when you do it, it's fast as the wind. And I got to tell you, every time I do a dir against a UNC path, I just get this big grin about how fast it is. And there are just, literally hundreds to thousands of little things like that. And so I think the team's commitment to, really focusing in on the real issues that face our customers is important, even though those things aren't going to make a big splashy feature, okay, a big headline. We don't talk about those things, but they are the things that people really experience when they use the product. So that's sort of my favorite thing. By the way, the same thing with Windows Server, same thing. There's so much hardcore, tough engineering done and a set of features that we're never going to talk about because they're not big things, but the level of quality and attention to detail is just, I'm personally the proudest about. Then the big name features, really it's got to be workflow and workflow directly. So now what happens is you had PowerShell, and everyone who's run large data centers, we're taking PowerShell and workflow and putting it together. And first, that's really hard, and second is when you do so, there's hundreds of design decisions, and those design decisions affect whether or not the workflows for one engine can work on the others. And in general, that hasn't worked out very well. So we are changing who we think of ourselves as, right? We used to think of ourselves as an OS for that server, and we don't think of ourselves that way anymore. We view ourselves as a cloud OS. And a cloud OS, so what is an operating system? An operating system manages resources in order to deliver a computing platform. So when we saw ourselves as a server OS, we manage the resources of a server in order to provide a server computing platform. We don't see ourselves that way anymore. We see ourselves as a cloud OS. That means we manage the compute resources of lots of servers, the networking and the storage and whatever it takes to take all those components to deliver a cloud computing platform. So that is a huge increase in responsibilities. And when you have those distributed components, you really need a workflow engine. Something that says, hey, I'm going to perform an action and it's going to take quite a long time. And as I do it, some parts may be down, but I want them to eventually succeed. And so that's what the whole workflow engine's about.
I've heard some stories that you can use PowerShell to manage non-Windows machines.
Sure.
So I would like to hear some details about that.
Yeah, there's a huge push on standards-based management. Actually, that would be the competing thing. So standards-based management is really, again, flows from our mission of being a cloud OS. So when I say I've got to manage all these heterogeneous networking devices, boy, there's a lot of vendors out there with a lot of proprietary management protocols. Same thing with storage, same things with all these different things. And so how is it that we can succeed? And the answer is you really can't. And that's, we can't succeed. Other people who want to build cloud application frameworks or other cloud OSs, none of those people can succeed if the game is that you have to write and adopt everyone's proprietary management interface. And so what we're doing is we're stepping up and we're driving the industry to adopt better adoption of standards-based management. And by standards-based management, we really mean the DMTF, the Distributed Task Force Management standards. And so that's WSMAN protocol and the SIM model. So these are the things that are in WMI. And so big change now, our primary management protocol is the standards-based protocol, and DCOM is there really for backwards compatibility. So if standards management isn't fantastic, Windows management isn't fantastic. Guess what? I'm going to invest to make standards management fantastic. And so then also we go and work on the various schemas, trying to drive standards in those schemas. Now, this is even to the point where now Linux, right? We have a demonstration where a Linux client can install Windows Server roles using standards-based management. So first and foremost, we want to be a great citizen. Everyone can be able to manage us using standards-based management, right? That gives us the moral authority to then turn to them and say, you should be standards-based management as well. And if you are, we have a great set of functions in Windows that, in a few years, I'll have 500 million devices out there that if you're standards-based management, Windows will be able to manage those without any additional software. That's a pretty compelling value proposition. Next, the problem is, well, for those guys in the open source community, honestly, some of the existing implementations of standards-based management have issues. And so we're investing, that's right, you heard it right, Microsoft is investing in building an open source SIMOM and making it available to the rest of the world so that they can adopt those things, so that they can adopt standards-based management, so that we can manage them, they can manage us. We're very serious about this one.
Can you expect to manage Windows machine using smartphone devices or tablets?
Sure.
iPads?
Yeah. There's a couple different ways to do it, right? One is those devices might go directly talk to an individual server and manage it. More likely what we see is that those devices will then talk to a management service that will then talk to multiple back-end services, right? So there we see that primarily being sort of an HTTP and a REST-based API, and we now support OData. OData is a REST API. with a set of conventions. So there's lots of different REST APIs. OData basically says, hey, follow these set of conventions and we can produce great libraries for clients.
Do you expect to see a lot of PowerShell Web Access usage in the future?
Yeah, we do. So PowerShell Web Access is, PWA, sort of like OWA, Outlook Web Access. And that is to say, with Outlook Web Access, you can use any browser on any device, point to a machine, and log into that machine, and then it'll direct you to your Outlook, and you get mail in your browser. PowerShell Web Access, you connect, point any device to a gateway machine. You log into that gateway machine and you tell it what other machine you'd like to manage. And then it will give you a PowerShell console window in your browser managing that remote machine.
Yeah, so as long as you have a browser on your device, you can go to a Windows machines and do some nice stuff with the PowerShell.
Exactly, and that's we talked to a number of hosters and companies that are very interested in this. So the idea is, if you've seen some of these things where you have a VM in the cloud that you're managing, and they have these web interfaces and say, oh, I'd like to provision this and this and this, and then they'd like to be able to say, I'd like to manage it. And so as you click a button in the same management portal, bringing up that direct management interface. There's a lot of interest in that. So we'll see.
Yeah. So there is a question that I forgot to ask you that you would like to share answers with our audience. Is there something that we miss to mention?
I'm sure that there is.
Yeah, probably. But let's leave something for San Diego.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Would you like to announce the PowerShell Deep Dive in San Diego conference?
Yeah, so here's what we did. We're having a PowerShell deep dive. Now, what's a deep dive? And really the answer is, when we go to conferences like this, again, I mentioned we have these advanced users and some of the early adopters. And so it's always kind of a hard fit trying to figure out what the right level of session is. And so what we decided was, hey, there's a group of people who've been with us for quite a long time, and we wanted to create really quite an intimate setting, right? So we consciously restricted the number of people that could attend, and kind of went out and hand invited some of the most senior, most influential, and most experienced people in the community to come together. And we just get together. It's a very intimate setting, and we just geek out. People come give presentations, and here we're doing deep drill-ins. All the nitty-gritty details. And honestly, one night, we got together and had drinks and just set up tables, and people brought their laptops, and they're like, oh, come here, show me this. Oh, yeah, you like that? Try this. Oh, have you tried that? Did you know, for instance, you could say ampersand $ module name and then give an expression, and it evaluates within that module? All those kind of esoteric things. So people just love the heck out of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Cheers.